Hello and welcome to our midweek episode this week, where if you've listened to the podcast episode, you know we're going to be talking about what the Canadian NHL teams are going to do as sellers. So in this episode, we're definitely going to talk about Montreal and Ottawa, and then potentially, I think I would consider Vancouver and Winnipeg sellers in this deadline. I don't think they're going to sell the entire farm or anything, but I do think that they'll just, accumulate picks, and each of them have some players that they can definitely give out. So I'll start with the worst team, Montreal. Selling, they have a lot of players that they can get rid of that are still valuable. Like for one, Jeff Petrie. I think Jeff Petrie should be able to be sold this year. He still has a few years remaining in his contract, and he's still a really good hockey player. And he's very much still an offensive threat. So I think, a team that needs a power play quarterback back in defense, and that's one step away from becoming a legit contender. I think Petrie could be back there. Petrie to Toronto would be the most ideal thing possible for Toronto.
It'll be tough, though, with his,
6 million. Yeah, but then Toronto's got to have to find a way to sweeten the pot and to get them to either retain salary or take salary back. But yeah, it's going to be Petrie to Toronto to Edmonton would be tough. To Tampa Bay would be tough. Vegas, Petrie can't go to any one of those.
Just make Vegas a powerhouse again and just not.
Well, just do what Toronto does and just friggin' go away. Anyways, I'm not going to. Sorry, not what Tampa does.
Yeah.
I'm still so bitter over the $12 million over the cap. That's so stupid. Okay, anyway. Petrie, Sherratt, I guess he wasn't traded, so Sherratt can go back there. Gallagher, I would think, is another big one.
I've heard rumors about Gallagher being in the block. That'd be a good player to.
Is Tatar still there? Tatar will probably be.
Tatar's in LA.
LA, yes. That was a tough one. But they can't, I think anyone should be available with the exception of Suzuki, if we're going to be completely honest. Caulfield, you're right. Suzuki and Caulfield should be the only ones that stay there the whole time. But Montreal, what they need is to. I don't know if they can do a really quick rebuild because their team's relatively young and they don't have a goalie now because Price, his career is likely over, actually, is what it looks like. So what they're going to need to do is it's going to be a 2 to 3 year rebuild. The next couple of years, they're not going to be that good, but they're going to. Yeah.
It'll be tough.
But they have to, this is where they're going to get the most value for Petrie, but it's not going to happen at the deadline. It's going to happen at the end of the year. It's going to
draft, maybe.
Yeah, it's going to happen at the draft. Petrie will probably be gone by the draft. Sherratt will be gone. All of their pending UFAs need to go this year, though. They need to be able to recover something for all their pending UFAs.
They don't have much, though. They have, right now, for pending UFA-wise, they have Cedric Paquette, Ben Sherratt, Brett Kulak, Chris Weidman, Laurent Dauphin. And
yeah, he's not getting you anything, though.
Yeah.
Paquette is going to get you stuff. He's a good fourth liner. He can get you a 6th round pick. Even if it's just a 6th round, there's some players that have come out of the 6th round that have been unreal hockey players, like Nick Lindstrom out of the 7th round. You're never going to get another Nick Lindstrom in the draft like that. But, 6th round is still not a bad pick. The Oilers got Carter Savoy in the, it was a 4th round. But Petrov, we got out of the 6th round this last year or something like that. So it's you can be lucky and get a good player out of there. Yeah, and
Montreal, it'll be tough to sell, really.
Well, that's why you got to get rid of the Petries and the Gallaghers. You get rid of them now, just so you can have the time to rebuild properly, right? Because
right now they have roughly 6.6, 6.7 mil in cap space. So if you trade Gallagher and Petrie, if you don't get any players back, there's another 12 million right there.
Well, they can do in Arizona and just take a lot of take some cap back, retain some salary for them, and then they can get instead of a player in a third, they can get a player in a first for Petrie for some salary retention, right?
Yep.
That could work too. It's just they just don't have many teams that they can trade with. But Petrie at $3.3 million or whatever, that's half of his salary is right now. That's an exceptional hockey player.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Even though he's having a very, very bad
he's on a garbage Montreal team though. That is not a good team at all right now.
But Petrie at 3.3 or 3 or whatever.
He's in the 6 millions, and I don't think it's more than 6.5, or it might be 6.6666666, whatever that is.
For his cap?
Yeah.
That's 6.25.
6.25. Okay, yeah, so 3.125. That wouldn't be a bad one at all. And then, yeah, I guess like moving over to Ottawa, for example, they don't have many, man. Like it's pending UFA and Tyler Ennis. And then their team is just so young. Like you don't rebuild by getting rid of your young players.
Yeah, like pending UFA wise, again, we have Chris Tierney, Zach Sanford, Nicholas Paul, Tyler Ennis, like you said, Joshua Brown, and then Anton Forsberg.
Forsberg might be able to get you something as like a backup in the NHL. And then Tierney might be able to get you something. But again, it's just a fourth liner.
Yeah.
And, yeah. You know who actually has the two biggest pieces?
Right, holy crap. Right now they have apparently, like according to Cap Friendly, they have right now $28 million in cap space.
Yeah, but that's because their entire team is below the age of 23 pretty much, right? Like they need to be able to be, and also and Eugene Melnyk is cheap.
900,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Melnyk is known to be unbelievably cheap, not wanting to pay out their players. Like the Shabbat thing took a long time for him to get signed there, and it's just $8 million a year. And what's his face? Kachuk.
Kachuk got 8.3 basically.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean Ottawa isn't like Montreal has a bigger piece in Shabbat and Petrie and Gallagher. Like those are three big pieces that I think they should trade. Gallagher and Petrie likely in the draft because they still have term. Sherrod has to be traded during this here. Like they can't not trade him and get lose him for nothing in the offseason because he's not signing back, and he's not a part of their future. I don't think either. He's like what 28 years old, 29. He's not that old.
Sherrod is 30.
30. Yeah, so it's still like a decent age for a hockey player. He's probably going to want like a 4 or 5 year contract, but I don't think anyone's going to give him. I don't think Montreal's giving him that. I think they have 2 or 3 years at most.
Yeah, but going back to Ottawa, yeah, like you said, not really much to give unless you want like 3rd or 4th rounders for your players. But I guess it's still pretty good. And
Tierney, the most value they have is Forsberg, and I think he gets a 5th. I don't think Anton Forsberg is that much better than Martin Jones out of Philly. I think the most value they get is a 5th for him. Tierney is probably the 5th or 6th, but even then you accumulate those and you get later, and you just have more chances at a shot at the dark.
Build up your farm.
Exactly, right? So, I don't know. That team's interesting because they're so young and they have so many good players, and they're going to get another exceptional player this draft. They have
lots of draft picks this year, too.
Yeah.
So if they keep getting more draft picks, they'll definitely be able to build the farm for sure.
And like in future years, they'll be able to be buyers because they're going to have a lot of prospects and a lot of like young players that they can trade away. You know what I mean? Like,
or even just use these draft picks at the draft and then move up and get better picks.
It'll be an interesting. I think I can see them trading one. They have multiple 1st round picks this year, I think, right?
No, they have one.
Just the one.
Just the one. They have 2 2nd round picks and 3 3rd round picks.
Okay, yeah, that's gonna be because the 3rd round pick is like a bottom 6 forward typically.
Yeah,
usually how it goes, or like a fringe starter in the NHL because goalies don't go until later anyways.
Goalies go around like 2nd, 3rd, 4th, when they start to get picked. Yeah.
So, anyways, that's all. These are the next 2 teams that have a big piece that can possibly be traded. Okay, so you have the Winnipeg Jets, who probably have the most valuable pending UFA of all the Canadian teams.
We're talking about Winnipeg right now?
We're talking about Winnipeg, okay. Yeah. Their 3rd line center, Lowry, I want to say is what his name is.
Adam Lowry has a lot of years left.
And why was he? Who's a pending UFA in Winnipeg?
We have Paul Stastny. We have Andrew Kopp, which maybe that's who you're thinking of.
Okay.
I don't know. And that is basically it out of pending UFA. So we have Nathan Beaulieu and
their defensive
CJ,
players.
Seuss, but
their defense won't get them much. I was almost convinced maybe Lowry signed a contract recently, or just I'm completely off on just intelligent facts this week or something. I don't know what it is. But even then, so what did you say? Paul Stastny is still a good hockey player. I think he can fetch you like a 2nd and or a 3rd. And then you have Andrew Kopp, who's
Andrew
actually
Kopp
really good
yes.
third line checking role. He should be able to get you a B prospect and a mid-round pick, or just like a higher pick, like a second or a third. It just depends, like, who makes the first move this year. It depends on, like, what are they going to do
in their first move, and what's the move? Then that basically,
because that's going to completely figure out what the market's worth right now. Because right now, like, Edmonton's been in a few trades as well, and they're just asking for too much, and Holland's not wanting to make the move, which I respect.
Speaking of like baseline, just like this past offseason, where I think Seth Jones went for like $9 million, and then every defenseman went for $9 million.
Yep.
Even Darnell Nurse.
Yeah, so it really depends. Like, GMs are kind of cowards. They don't want to do the first move.
Just throw some balls and be like the alpha.
But even then, the Seth Jones trade wasn't actually that much. They didn't give up that much for him. No, they traded. They traded for Seth Jones, did they not? It wasn't a UFA thing. He didn't sign there as a UFA. He got traded there, and it was for their young left shot defenseman that was playing with, oh my goodness, I can't even remember the kid's name. A Swedish kid.
It was...
And a first. That was it. Just a good prospect and a first round pick. I want to say it starts with a B.
It was Seth Jones for Adam Boqvist.
Yep.
And then a first round, second round, and first round of next year.
Yeah, that wasn't even that much.
Or this coming year.
Yeah. So no, that was not that much of a trade.
Well, he traded when he was at 5.4, and then he signed, I guess, an extension for, I guess, starting next year for $9 million.
So I'm interested to see what the market is going to say for these rental players, because there's some like decent ones out there right now that can be had. I think the biggest name in the entire rental market would be Thomas Hertl and Marc-Andre Fleury. Those are the two biggest names for sure. Hertl will probably go somewhere. I don't think he re-signs in San Jose for a discount, because that team's not the greatest in cap relief right now either. So that defense that they have is just way too expensive.
And going back to Winnipeg, they only have like 1.2 mil, so I guess I would just go for picks.
They need to trade. Yeah, they need to trade some of their pending UFAs as well. Like, they're not making the playoffs this year. They need to accept that. Trade away their pending UFAs, sign some more defensemen for next year, and with a better defense, they'll be able to make it further in the playoffs.
Yeah,
or actually be able to make the playoffs, but make it far in there too. I think that's what Winnipeg needs. They have a superstar goalie. They have a legitimate number one center and a really very serious number two center as well.
And they have pretty decent defense.
Yeah, but they don't have a number one.
No, like that. I guess that's their like.
That's their Achilles heel. Like, if you look, their forward group is amongst the best in the entire NHL. I don't think there's a question about that.
Depth wise too.
Their goalie is a top 5 goalie in the world.
Yep.
The weakness is the defense. Their top two, like Pionk and Morrissey, are good, but I don't think they have much after them. And that's actually brings me to the next team that's similar to the Vancouver Canucks. Their biggest thing, their goal, Thatcher Demko is an unreal goalie. He's a legitimate star in this league right now. And then their forward group is actually quite decent. Their defense is what's weak. I mean, they have Quinn Hughes, and that's really the only big name that they have. And they have Oliver Ekman-Larsson, but he's nowhere near what he was before. But that's another one. This isn't a pending UFA, but this is a player that has been in trade talks for a while, and it's JT Miller. JT Miller, if they trade him in this deadline, they'll get a lot more value than if it was at the draft. So I think they really should consider trading Miller out, because you're going to have him. I think this next year's his last year. So instead of having for just 1 year and one potential playoff run, you're going to get him for 2. You're not going to be giving up players that are playing right now. You're not going to be doing that kind of stuff for JT Miller. He's a legit top 6 forward, great in the penalty kill, can play in your power play if need be. Like, he's exactly what many teams need. He'll be able to fetch a first round pick, a good prospect, and then another a current player that can fill a role. Like, I'm thinking, let's say hypothetically, if it was the Oilers that were going to trade for him, which I don't think we will, but it's just easier because I know our prospects a lot better than most other teams, okay?
Oh, yeah.
If it's the Oilers trading, it would be our first round pick plus Xavier Bourgault and current roster Yamamoto. I think the 3-for-1, I think that would be a fair trade. they're getting smaller players. Or they would get smaller players in return, but the first round pick is big because we don't even know if the Oilers are going to make the playoffs this year. So the first round pick will be big, and then Borgo is projected to be a good second line winger, and then Yamamoto is a current roster player that is a really good penalty killer.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it would take for the Oilers to trade for him, and I think that's the asking price that that Vancouver is going to be asking for. I don't know why I always confuse Montreal and Vancouver every single episode.
Like
we always talk complete opposite sides. Like one's the furthest east team, and the other one's the furthest west team, and I always confuse the two of them. Good Lord, Victor, come on.
It's okay. It's okay. You had a long week. It's okay. It's forgivable.
But yeah, I mean, I think. Vancouver, forgive me, I don't know all of their pending UFAs. You have the list in front of you now.
Pending UFAs right now is Tyler Mott, former Oiler Alex Chason.
Mm-hmm.
Did Brad Hunt play for in the system? Yeah, so Brad Hunt.
So nothing really.
Halak.
Yeah, nothing. They may be able to trade Halak, but he's
Brendan
got
Sutter.
Oh, Sutter might actually be a decent one. He could be a fourth line center on most teams still. Unless he's been injured, though.
He's injured.
Yeah, I think he has a concussion issue for the last little bit.
Nothing
they'll get nothing. Halak is the only one with value there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing, man. If I was a GM and I know my team's out of it, I'm like, yeah, okay. All my UFAs are gone. I don't even care if it's just a 6th or 7th. Like, they need to be... I need, just to bring in... And then maybe I can see people from my farm system that I can come up and see how they're doing kind of thing, right? Like, we'll see. I think these 4 teams should be sellers. I think Cheveldayoff is going to... the easiest one that's going to get back right away is going to be Winnipeg. I think they only need 2 more defensemen in that team. It's easier said than done with the cap that they have. But 2 defensemen in there, I think, will be a realistic thing. And then they become like a legit, a contender again. Because you remember when they went to the Western Final that one year, and they lost to the Vegas Golden Knights that year. Their defense was exceptional. Like, they had a good defense, and they were all playing really well. But the defense of Vegas was just a little bit better, and that's why they won, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Defense wins championships, man, especially in hockey right now. Like, you can, the Oilers have the 2 best players in the world, and we can barely make the playoffs right now because our defense isn't playing that well. Same with our goalies. And Winnipeg has an exceptional goalie, so you just need to build a defense around them.
Because their goalie can steal them games, not like ours.
That was Calgary's forte for the longest time. Their offense was crap. But you look, their goalie, Markstrom is a top 10 for sure, top 5 maybe goalie in the world right now. And their defense is quite decent.
When Mike Smith was playing unreal.
Yeah.
But offense wasn't there.
And that's why they lost in the playoffs. They just couldn't score. Same with the Oilers. We didn't win the playoffs because we just couldn't score the goals we needed to. Our defense didn't play bad last year. Our goalie didn't play bad. It was just the offense wasn't scoring. Yeah. So, as long as you have good defense, defense, in my opinion, will win the championships because at the end of the day, the offense should be able to produce eventually, but I don't know. I guess we literally just contradict ourselves the entire time by saying, well, we just couldn't score. That's why they lose. But at the end of the day, the defense for the Jets and Vancouver Canucks is just not good enough right now to be a cup contender.
More Winnipeg than Vancouver, that they're closer to having a good
Winnipeg
defense.
is significantly closer than Vancouver. I absolutely agree. Because Scheifele, Wheeler, Ehlers, Dubois, Lowry, who else do they have? Hellebuck, Morrissey, Pionk, Kyle Connor. Thank you. I forgot about him.
Totally forgot about Kyle Connor.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, Winnipeg's a lot closer. I think they'll be contending for a playoff spot next year for sure. No question. It's just Cheveldayoff needs to make the move.
Shore up their defense, and then
we're
good.
So, and that's not something you're going to do during the regular season. It'll be the off season.
Not this year too.
Yeah, it'll be I can see them going for Sherratt as their second pairing lefty. That would be a good smart signing. And then Connor Murphy will be a high commodity, the right D of in Chicago. If they get Sherratt and Murphy, that is a cup contending team. I'm just gonna say right now, that is a legitimate cup contender if they get both Sherratt and Murphy. Mm-hmm. Legit second pairing to play behind Pionk and Morrissey. And the top 4 might not be the best in the world, but they'll be competent enough to be able to handle it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I think that's everything for this week. Tune in next week where we're going to have Canada's podcast episode number 19. Mm-hmm. Very close to number 20. We're getting close. And we're going to be talking about the Canadian buyers. I don't think a team stays put. I think we either go. I think all 7 Canadian teams, I honestly think half will be buyers. I'm not going to sell the whole farm, but still buy, and then half will be sellers, where they will be selling everything they can.
I think we'll get into more for next midweek, but I think the team that has to like go all in the trade deadline is Edmonton.
Really, I think it's Toronto, but that's good because we'll chat about that next week. Anyways, thank you everybody for listening to our midweek episode, and we'll see you next week.